Hello everyone, welcome to AP Calc AB discussion. My name is Helen and this video is brought to you by Vertex Tutors. For today we'll be taking a look at the 2014 AP Calc AB FRQ question number 1. So taking a look at the problem, it says grass clippings are placed in a bin where they decompose. Where 0 is less than or equal to t is less than or equal to 30, the amount of grass clippings remaining in the bin is modeled by AT equals 6.687 times 0.931 to the power of t, where AT is measured in pounds and t is measured in days. So looking at letter A, it says find the average rate of change of AT over the interval 0 is less than or equal to t is less than or equal to 30, and we also have to indicate units of measure. So I'll be displaying the formulas and the problems on the right side using Desmos because we do have to use a graphing calculator for this problem and also just for convenience. So if we take a look at the AROC or the average rate of change, we always have to remember that this is very similar to slope. And so whenever we find slope, we use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which should be familiar to you. And so the formula for AROC is very similar. The formula for AROC is FB minus FA over B minus A. So this is the formula that we're going to be using for letter A. Now all we have to do is just plug in B and A. So we know from the problem that B is equal to 30 and A is equal to 0. So plugging that in into the equation, f of 30 minus f of 0 over 30 minus 0. And so this is just a calculator problem. So when we plug this into the calculator, we're going to get 0.782927 minus 6.687 over 30. And when we solve this, we get negative 0.1968. And we always have to remember to go back to the problem and look at the second portion, which is we have to indicate units of measure. And the units of measure is going to be given to you in the problem. So if we look back at the initial problem, it says where AT is measured in pounds and T is measured in days. So we know that the units of measure is going to be pounds over days. So when we write the final answer for letter A, we're going to write negative 0.1968 pounds per day. So that's the final answer for letter A. Moving on to letter B, it says find the value of A prime 15. Using correct units, interpret the meaning of the value in the context of the problem. So again, this is just a calculator problem. So we just plug this into the calculator. So we're going to plug in A prime of 15. And when we plug that in, we're going to get negative 0.1636. So that's the final answer. Moving on to letter C, it says find the time t for which the amount of grass clippings in the bin is equal to the average amount of grass clippings in the bin over the interval 0 is less than or equal to t is less than or equal to 30. So looking at this problem, what we need to find is the average amount of grass clippings in the bin over that interval. And so there's also a formula for this when we're finding the average amount. The formula is 1 over b minus a. We're going to be using definite integrals, so a is the bottom, and then b is the top bound, at dt. So this is the formula. Now all you have to do is just plug in a and b. So when we plug that in, we know that b is equal to 30, a is equal to 0. So it's going to be 1 over 30 minus 0, and then 0 on the bottom bound, 30 on the top. And AT, we know when we look back at the beginning of the problem, they give you AT as an equation. So we're just going to plug that equation into the formula. 6.687 times 0.931 to the power of t. And then don't forget the dt. So when we solve this, we get 2.7526. But that's not the end of the problem. We have to find where this amount equals to the amount of grass clippings in the bin. So the amount of grass clippings in the bin, they give you at the beginning of the problem, which is AT. So this equation is going to be set equal to the average amount that we just found. So when we set that equal to each other, we're going to do 2.7526 equals 6.687 times 0.931 to the power of t. And from now on, it's just using algebra to find t. We're going to divide both sides by 6.687, and then we're going to use natural log to find t. When we find t, we get 12.4148. So the t is equal to the time for which the amount of grass clippings in the bin, which is AT, is equal to the average amount of grass clippings in the bin over this interval, which we found using this formula. And so the answer is going to be t equals 12.4148. Moving on to the last letter, which is D, it says for t is greater than 30, LT, the linear approximation to A at t equals 30, is a better model for the amount of grass clippings remaining in the bin. Use LT to predict the time at which there will be 0.5 pounds of grass clippings remaining in the bin and show the work that leads to your answer. So for this, we have to use the formula y minus y1 is equal to m, which is the slope, parentheses x minus x1. So we have to find three different things here. We have to find y1, we have to find m, and we have to find x1. Those are the three variables that we need to find. And so we already know x1. x1 was given to you, x1 equals to 30. And so to find y1 though, all we have to do is just plug in the input into the equation to get the output, which will be y1. So plugging in 30 into this equation, we actually already did this in letter A when we did f of 30. So using the answer that we got there, we know that y of 1 is equal to 0.782928. So we know x1 and y1. Now all we need to find is the slope, which is m. And so to find the slope, we just have to do a prime of 30, and that's going to get you m. And so when we do a prime of 30, again, we just plug this into the calculator. When we plug it in, we're going to get negative 0.055976. So with this, now we can just plug in the three variables into the initial formula. When we plug it in, we're going to get y minus 0.782928 is equal to negative 0.055976 times parentheses x minus 30. So now that we have this, we have to go back to the problem and where it says use LT to predict the time at which there will be 0.5 pounds of grass clippings remaining in the bin. So LT, so the time is going to be equal to X and the pounds of grass clippings remaining in the bin is equal to Y. So we know that Y is equal to 0.5 as it's given in the problem. And so when we plug in 0.5 for Y, now all we need to do is use algebra to find X. And so when we do use algebra to find X, we get that X is equal to 35.0545. And so the answer for letter D is going to be 35.0545, and those are all the steps to solving number 1 of the 2014 AP Calc AB free response question.